Hola y bienvenidos al Club de Drama. This week we talk about Adele's Body Yaddy Yaddy. We talk about the arrival of the Musk Grimes Bebe. And then in a very special episode, we both do a deep dive into the lives of rock icons Courtney Love and Kurt Cobain. Stay tuned.
What up, fam? It's good, y'all. Feels good, right? Yeah, I know it do. And without further ado, we broadcasting live from CA to NY.
Okay, That Bud is a story of Amrita, whose seemingly perfect life is shattered when her husband slaps her once in a party. But is one slap enough to question...
My life would be shattered by that also.
But is one slap enough to question what a relationship stands for?
At a party, yes. Like in front of a bunch of
people. So
fuck yeah, that slap will define you.
So I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting because I think we all know, or let me just speak for myself on this. Like I think I know what my response would be in that situation, and I know what I would tell my friends to do in that situation. But
well, let's hear it.
It's like you obviously that's it. It's over. You leave him.
How could you do that at a party? Like in front of people,
right?
If that's what it's like in front of people, but could you imagine how ugly it'll get?
But the movie implies that this is a one-time thing or something, or at least the description does, right? Or it's a first time. Yeah, exactly.
It's a first time thing. There you go.
So, but we all know that that's not how life works, and that there's gray areas, and people don't just. I mean, if that were the case, there wouldn't be abusive relationships because everyone would just leave their partner when something like that happens, and I understand that not everything is black and white like that. So I'm like, all right, this is an interesting premise for a movie, right? So
yeah, very, very interesting.
So I just turned it on. I knew we were going to start like in an hour. So I was like, let me turn this on real quick. And like the first 15 minutes or maybe up to 20 minutes, I was like, is this a comedy? Or kind of light, and it was making me a little uncomfortable. I was like, I don't know. But then right before I had to stop to set up for the podcast, the slap happened. And let me tell you, this movie's going places.
Really? What are you watching this on?
Amazon Prime.
Okay.
I need
what's it called again?
Thapid. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's THAPPAD. Or Thapad or something.
Fuck, that's not how I was gonna. I thought FAPID. Hold on.
So I'm gonna finish it after we're done recording. THAPPAD.
Interesting. I still haven't seen Bombshell because I just got on my stuff to watch list.
Yeah, I haven't seen Bombshell either. Is that anywhere?
I don't think so. What else did I want to watch?
Still haven't seen Little Women.
Oh, it's good. It's Little Women. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I haven't seen Jojo Rabbit. I still have that written on here. I was going to take it off because I was like, do I really need to watch this? But
I mean,
yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have. I also have one of my friends, her husband's from Liverpool. Mm-hmm. So she they're huge Beatles fans. She told me to watch this movie, Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool.
Never heard of it.
And I wrote it down on my list. I've been meaning to watch it. I think it's from the 70s.
I watched over the last several days La Casa de las Flores, the new season.
How do you like it?
I wasn't super enjoying it. Not that it was bad or anything. It was fine. I just was not into it. I wasn't captivating to me, but then it picks up in the second half.
Okay, well, that's how I felt about the second season.
Yeah, similar to that.
This is kind of dragging. Here.
I think it does that thing where a lot of shows that I like do this, where as it goes on, you have to see, in order to create new storylines, they do different combinations of characters, right. You love to see the siblings together. And
right.
I mean, there's only so many stories you're going to get out of that. So you need to
mix it up and shit.
Yeah. And it's but I don't want to see that. I want to see the people that I like.
Like Friends always makes me think of that.
Yeah.
Because you want to see just whatever, Chandler and Joey fucking around, Ross and Rachel, but then fucking Chandler and Rachel had to mac for a second because they ran out of shit to write about.
Yeah. So, I mean, it picks up at the end, but then I didn't realize that it was the last season.
Yeah, of all time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I like that guy. Manolo Carro.
so it picks up. Like if you're starting to watch the third season and you're like, oh, what's going on? I think it gets better.
Yeah.
The new season of Dead to Me dropped. I haven't started it yet.
Oh, I haven't started it either because I gotta watch it with Hoel and he's working.
Aha.
Whatever. I do fucking hate that, and I do envy that of like being single, where you just watch whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
But and then it's like it's kind of like, I mean, I could just watch it, but then what? I'm gonna watch it again with him, or when he's home, he's gonna watch it. Like, I don't know.
You could pretend to watch it for the first time with him.
Yeah, well, I don't want to watch it twice. Maybe. What if it sucks and you gotta sit through it? That sucks. True. I'm sure it won't suck though. By the way, how could it suck with that cast?
I know, amazing.
I rewatched the last 2 seasons of Arrested Development because I was like, I hated these, and why don't I? Yeah, like the new ones.
Yeah.
Like I hate it, but remember the first drop of the new season was all fucked up.
Yeah,
and then they redid it. So I hadn't watched the redone version.
Oh yeah, the remix.
The remix, yeah.
Yeah.
So I watched the remix and then I liked it.
Oh really?
Yeah. So then I watched the second new season, which is like the 5th season, right? It's so fucking confusing. Anyway.
I only watched the first half of the second season.
Oh, okay.
Of the second new season, because I was like, am I even enjoying this? Is it just ruining
just kind of
the whole? Yeah, is it ruining the whole thing for me? You know?
Yeah.
So I never finished it, which is very rare for me. I almost always finish a show.
I know, me too. Even if I'm hating it, I will.
Yeah. Which I haven't. We talked about it, but now Homeland officially ended. I didn't.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, it did.
I did stop watching Homeland.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ever gonna.
Actually, I take back what I said about like I always finish it. No, I will break up with the show quick. If they kill off a character that I'm invested in, I'm so fucking mad. Downton Abbey did that to me. I stopped watching after 4th season. Whenever Michael and what's her face died, I stopped watching.
Okay, so
I think it's 3rd season that I stopped watching.
I think that's 3rd season, yeah.
Because he dies in the car crash in the season finale. And I was so fucking pissed, man. I was like, no.
Well, I just saw today HBO Go. I got a notification on my phone that it was like the Downton
movie?
Abbey movie. The Crawleys are back, and I was like, are they? Might have to watch that. But would you watch the movie or no? Because you would have to watch the.
Do I have to?
Probably not. No.
Yeah, no, I'd watch the movie.
Yeah.
Fuck it. These beats are
they're
pretty
dying?
old. They're like I think they're the first version of like this. So I mean, we've had them forever. But yeah, they're not working as hot anymore.
I always keep the ones that come with a new phone just in case, like for backups, and those like tend to last a pretty decent amount of time.
Yeah, they're good. I don't like Apple headphones, but yeah. One of my headphones that I work out in died on me. So exactly that. Like I looked for I always keep it too.
Yeah.
And I used it and they work fine. I just don't like them because I usually only use headphones when I'm running, and I'm somebody that sweats a lot, and the Apple ones always fall out of my fucking ear.
Oh, interesting.
And so I fucking hate them. Like the way that they have this shape, like it's very comfortable, and I could see why you would like it if you were working or something. But me, because I sweat, it's just like, whoop, it just fucking, and then it ruins my run. Like I get so pissed.
Yeah. You should get the Beats ones that go like up and over the ear, the wireless ones.
Yeah, I don't trust those. I see those and I'm like, yeah.
I mean, if it's good enough for LeBron James.
You know what I mean?
James.
But no, I'm not saying, do LeBron James sweat like me? Like, Homegirl knows her sweat. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know.
Or like Simone Biles.
Yeah, I mean.
Because you probably sweat when you're doing flips, like a million flips in the air.
But people sweat at different rates, man. You, for example, don't sweat. I actually told my mom this today. Because I went over to the house because they grew radishes, and so she wanted to give me radishes.
She grew radishes? How did they come out?
Beautiful, man. They're so cute, like, and they're perfect. Like, I mean, they're so good. So she started sweating, like, when she was pulling them.
Yeah, and it's hot outside.
Yeah, and I was like, Mommy, let's go inside. Like, it's fucking hot. And then I was like, man, I always sweat. Like, I sweat like that because of you or something like that. And she was like, yeah, my mom sweats like that too. And then I was like, you know who doesn't sweat is May. And I was like, Mommy, He entrado con la mea a una pinche sauna, okay? Y no le sale el sudor. And she was like, I know, mija.
It's true, dude. That's why all the toxins stay inside.
She was like, I know, que feo. I was like, que feo. It's feo that we fucking sweat like ridiculous. Can you see it?
Oh, they came out so good.
Aren't they so cute?
Damn.
Oh, that shit was bomb.
2 weeks ago, I planted whiskiles. And
what?
Yeah, and tell me why, like, they fucking are, like, just fucking growing.
With
like,
what? Like, you got a pack of seeds or you used a whiskey?
You just straight up put a whiskey in the ground. I looked it up on YouTube. I remember that when I was a kid at our house, we had whiskilas growing in the backyard. My grandma planted them. And so I had some whiskilas just sitting on the counter, and they started to sprout like a little thing. And I was telling my mom, like, wouldn't it be cool, like, to have whiskilas? And she was like, yeah, it's fucking easy. Like, you just, like, plant them and they just start to grow. And I looked up a YouTube video, and it was a dude just straight up, like, dug a hole, dropped the whiskey in the ground, and, like, covered it. And so that's what I did, like, last week. And that shit is fucking growing, dude. Like, it's
what
so
does the
fucking easy.
Plant look like? Is it a bush or?
No, it's like vines. You know where you could put it? It could cover your back fence. Because remember how you were saying?
I hate that fence. Yeah.
Yeah. It grows like that.
I'm going to plant a whiskey and see what the fuck's up.
Yeah, that shit is so fucking easy. And then
whiskey is bomb for our non-Central American listeners. Whiskey is chayote squash?
Yeah, chayote. Chayote in Mexico, and then just
it's
like
from
squash.
The squash family.
Yeah, it's squash adjacent. It's squash.
Green. Yeah, it is a squash.
Yeah.
Type of squash.
Yeah. But when I was a kid, we had the kind that was like spiky, and that one's bomb.
That one's
like,
real bomb.
But the one the one that I planted was just like a regular schmeg.
Joel had never tried it until he started dating me and my mom. Like, because we put it in our caldo de res.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and his family doesn't. And he was like, what is this?
Damn, Joel really leveled up when he started dating you.
He sure did. You said it right there, man. That's the version of my fucking movie, Tap It, or whatever the fuck it was called. Level up, level up. Tiff just tweeted, Living Single is the best show ever made. I will fight you.
Living Single is so good, and it holds up.
It's so fucking good. I haven't seen that in a long ass time.
I randomly started watching it recently, like during quarantine.
That shit's funny, right?
Yeah, that shit is so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Oh, I watched the new Natalie Wood documentary on HBO.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
I saw her, was it her daughter or granddaughter who said she asked?
It's her daughter. That's the premise of the documentary, basically.
Oh, okay. So go ahead.
Natasha, she asked RJ, Robert Wagner, like if he had anything to do with it, and like he obviously says no, and she believes him because that's basically her dad. Like, that's not her biological dad, but they grew up together as a family from the time she was like 2 years old.
Right.
So yeah, anyway, she believes him, but I mean, that's what I expect, I guess. That's not unexpected.
Yeah.
But I recommend the documentary.
Okay. It's on HBO?
Yeah. And it's just like, it goes over Natalie's life, and she's just so fucking beautiful, and like you can see it's just like the hard work that she put into her whole career and stuff.
Seriously.
And Natasha looks just like her.
Oh.
Yeah, it's good. I wrote down a quote. This was what she was talking about, her relationship with RJ. She said, quote, "In fact, we were both so confused that we thought fighting and hostility meant real emotional honesty."
Oh,
and I was
damn.
like, that is a vibe right there. That's a lot of people.
Mouthful there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Scott Disick is in rehab. I forgot about that.
What kind of rehab?
Alcohol. He at one point said he was a sex addict, but that was kind of like, I think that he was kind of using it as an excuse to justify all of the cheating he was doing with Courtney. Because at that time they were still together, and then he said all that, and then they broke up, and he was just like dating. Which I think he just wanted to be single.
Mm-hmm.
Not to like, I mean, I don't want to say that it's not true. Maybe he also is that, but that's just the way I saw it.
Have they been together? How old is like their oldest child-ish?
I don't know.
Like
that kid Mason? I
don't
know.
Not like a teenager or anything, but
I think he's probably like 11, right? I don't know.
But they had a long relationship, right?
Yeah, because before that kid was born, they had been together
So
and like broken up and then get back together.
I would assume they've been together since they were like hella young.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe he
Mm.
wanted to be single, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Roy Horn passed away.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. to Roy. For those of you that remember, I did a Siegfried and Roy twofer at the suggestion of our friend Paige. And that's actually one of my favorite episodes because you do Sex Idiot.
Oh, what's my full name? The swimmer.
Ja.
Ja.
What is his fucking name? What's the other swimmer's name?
Michael Phelps.
Michael Phelps and Ryan Lochte.
Ryan
Jesus.
Lochte. Yeah. Oh, that's the same episode? Okay, that's funny. I'm going to go back and listen to that.
That one's really funny. It's one of my favorite ones. Anyways.
Roy passed away.
Yeah, like such a fucking icon. Vegas icon.
Yeah.
Kind of like of another era now.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel so bad. I hope Siegfried's okay. And
I mean, that has to take a toll when someone who you've been attached to for damn near your whole lives at this point.
Yeah, is gone. And somebody who went through something so hard and tragic and came out of the end of it, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
R.I.P. to him. Also R.I.P. to Little Richard.
Tutti Frutti.
That's so wild.
Another icon.
Super icon. Sorry. I got too loud right there. Just like Little Richard would.
Just someone who I feel like we can barely begin to comprehend his influence on
rock
music
and roll
and
or
culture.
anything. Yeah.
Just
dance
wow.
and style, swag. Yeah, just everything. Yeah. R.I.P. What a legend.
He was almost 90 years old, huh?
Yeah, he was like 88 or something.
Yeah. Wow. There was a little thing that I talked to you about that was Amanda Palmer on her Patreon.
Oh, yeah, man. So what happened?
So Amanda Palmer of the Dresden Dolls, if you guys are goths at all, but is married to Neil Gaiman, who's a writer, and they are like infamously problematic and like fucked up as a couple, kind of.
Yeah.
Anyways, she made the fact that she was divorcing him, she made it public on like the upper tier of her Patreon. So like if you paid Amanda Palmer like $15 this month, you would find out that she was divorcing Neil Gaiman before she told Neil Gaiman.
That's insane, me.
But it sounds about right though.
Yeah, I mean, talk about dramatic. Fuck. That's good. You know which other one is good, and I want to do a mini episode on it, is the actress that divorced that businessman and then did the Christie's auction of all her jewelry. I had wrote it down the other day.
I fucking love her, dude.
She's so beautiful.
She's
like,
beautiful.
And every time I look her up, I always get stuck looking at pictures of her because I'm like, dear God.
She's fucking beautiful. Ocean's 13 was Ellen Barkin.
Ellen Barkin, there you go.
Yeah, how old is she? Damn. 66 years old, still looking amazing.
Still could snatch a bitch.
For real, though.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, I didn't know she was married to Gabriel Byrne. That's not the person that...
No, it's not.
Divorce, but yeah. I didn't know she was married to him.
It's this guy, Ronald Perlman.
Yeah, interesting.
Who's an investor. Yeah. That guy's been married a grip of times, too.
He still got money? That's how you know he was fucking rich.
That's what I'm talking about. How many divorces could you afford, baby? Because you know those low-level millionaires who can like lose it all after one divorce and shit. Yeah. Make sure if you only marrying for that kind of reason, make sure he could at least afford like 3 divorces, girl.
Or be the first ex-wife, baby.
There you go. There you go.
How about our bitch Adele, though?
Yeah, oh my God. Adele turned 32, which I didn't realize she was exactly the same age as us.
Yeah.
Not to give our age away.
It always infuriates me that she's our age. Because
anybody like our age is like so successful and shit. I'm like, fuck you.
I just remember being just in awe of like her first album because we were 19. And the fact that she could spit that out when she was 19, I just
Chasing Pavements is
Chasing Pavements.
Good.
Oh, God.
If that was the only song she made, we
Right.
would probably still be thinking about her.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so Adele posted a birthday post on her Instagram, and she fucking looks, I mean, she always looked great, but she lost a ton of weight.
Yeah.
She looks like a different person to me.
I know.
Like, it's almost, honestly, I don't know. Like, I'm like, who is this?
I don't know how she manages to do this, that like we don't get images of her unless she wants to.
She probably doesn't go out that much.
Yeah, maybe that's, and she's got a baby too, right? So
Yeah.
she's
Like,
busy.
what's her face? Megan Fox. I remember, like,
Another
at
one,
the
yeah.
peak of her fame, you couldn't see her out or anything like that. And she said, like, because I don't go out. Like, my favorite, she said something funny, like, my favorite part of LA is this one strip mall with, like, a cheesecake factory. It was, like, Olive Garden and one other place. She was like, those are the only places you're going to see me at.
Damn, where is Dad? Let's
I
go.
know, right? And also, could Megan Fox be our friend? Because same, girl.
That's why I feel like the people who, I mean, aside from like a Lady Gaga, who's like a biggest star in the world type thing, like
Right.
the people who are like, oh, fame, I can't get away from all these people. I can't. Yes,
Yes,
you
you
can.
can. Yeah, if you choose not to.
So Adele, I'm not 1000% that she looks better.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I don't want to like. I think she looks better with a little bit more weight on her.
But we'll see, because
Right.
I feel like we
can't really see pictures of her. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's wait for like how she looks on the cover of her album, which I'm sure she's gonna look fucking snatched and gorgeous because she's like
Well, yeah.
one of the
It's gonna
all-time
be all
beauties.
filtered and shit. Man. Come on. Of course, we're all gonna look good on the cover of our albums. Like,
But okay, and also like when she comes out, like when she goes to the Grammys and shit.
there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would want to see.
Yeah. So I'm gonna wait to pass judgment. But she lit the internet on fire, and there's been a lot of like think pieces about like we don't want to like praise her too much.
Right. Like, you don't want your praise to seem like she wasn't beautiful before she
Yeah.
lost the weight.
Right.
But also, Adele was at an unhealthy weight
Yeah.
before, you know? So it's good that she lost some weight.
Can't wait. I can't wait to see a real picture of her.
Me too.
Yeah.
A real ass picture of her. And
Yep.
she was dating, what's his face?
Skepta. I can't wait to hear
Girl.
the skrr-pa-pa-pa on her next album. Ooh.
I'm gonna live for that.
Ooh, is that how you pronounce Elon Musk and Grime's baby's name?
Oh my gosh, man. I can't roll my eyes enough. This is some white nonsense. What the fuck is this?
Okay, I don't have it written down. What is it?
What is what?
What is the name of their baby?
You think I can't? I just told you I don't know how to speak English. You think I can pronounce robot? Whatever the fuck that shit is.
AX
17, right?
I don't know.
27.
AE. Oh, here it is. It's XAEA-12 Musk.
This is the stupidest fucking thing. We're in a pandemic, sir. Can you stop acting a fool?
Okay, let's see.
Ooh,
Cosmopolitan.
I did read something sad about him.
Oh, what?
Because when I was talking about it with Hotline, I was like, you know, he has like 6 kids already
Yeah.
because he's been married twice or 3 times or some shit like that. And he looked up his Wikipedia, and then I guess his first son had died of SIDS, and I was like, oh, that sucks. Well, you know what? If I was like, if I was rich and that had happened to me, I might have fuck around and have 10 kids too. Like,
Yeah.
You
Or
know?
I would be too scared to maybe have more kids. Honestly, I've never had a child, and nor do I have the desire to have a child. But Sid scares the shit out of me. Like I think about it I might think about it every week.
well, so that's what Joel and I had a conversation about. I was like, that because I think like he would turn around and maybe have a lot of kids. Like, could you imagine a person of science? So some like you, like, or like Joel, like someone who studied science and like understands science at these astronomical levels, having the loss of a child in a completely unexplainable manner.
Yeah, I know.
Like everything could be explained in this world if you truly understand science, you know, or most things for, you know, for the sake of argument. And then for that to happen to you, I mean,
you have no
must-
answers.
Oh
And
my
it's like,
God. And that must be like the worst.
And that's a hole that you probably try to fill for the rest of your life.
Exactly. So you got to turn around and fucking name a kid 217 and 17.
So someone said that they think it's pronounced Ash.
That sucks.
It must,
Oh, I was like, no, they didn't. They did that to the poor baby. It's true. You know that kid's gonna grow up and be like, "Fuck you, Dad."
I mean, it might be really funny if it's just pronounced like Fred.
Oh man! And then did you see her like little explanation about it?
Yes.
And she got part of it wrong, and Elon corrected her, and she was like, "Well, I have baby brain or some shit." She was like, "Well, fuck you."
Elon Musk, man, like, why did they do this?
I don't know. He's been on one. Maybe he was on one. Now I kind of want to give him a pass. Maybe he was just like all hormonal because he was gonna have the baby.
Shit. But where's my bitch? Oh no, I'm not gonna call her my bitch because I don't fuck with her. But Amber Heard, you could have had a fucking.
You fucking played yourself with that shit, bitch.
You could have had a 102.7 Kiss FM ass baby.
Your baby could have broke the internet with all that hype. No, but where you at? Nobody gives a shit. You know who could afford 3 fucking divorces?
Hey.
Elon Musk. You know who can't? Johnny Depp. You fucking played yourself. See, this is why white girls need brown friends.
If your man can bankrupt himself sending Hunter S. Thompson's ashes to space, you ain't got no business marrying that motherfucker.
No fucking business. What was the movie she was in with him? Rum Diary? Yeah, that was like the last Hunter S. Thompson thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did not watch that movie or read that book.
Oh, I did actually go see it in the theaters.
How was it? Did they have chemistry?
It's
first
awful.
Of all?
They do, but it's awful.
Oh. Mm.
I was just thinking about Fear and Loathing, and because I saw these Gucci glasses that kind of remind me of the ones on the poster.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, me and May should dress up as this.
Oh yeah, like a bucket hat, Hawaiian shirt,
cigarette.
Yeah.
We should do it and take pictures.
Yeah, that would be fun.
It'd be so sick.
Thank you to everyone responding to who you think is a cool white man.
Oh yeah, that's been so fun actually.
Yeah, super fun.
And thanks to Katie for that email.
Oh yeah, Katie Yeager, shout out to you. We love you.
She gave us a cool email about it was like her thesis on why Harrison Ford is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she might have convinced me. Katie Yeager, are you a lawyer too?
Hey, let's open up a firm.
Speaking of lawyers, you started watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills this season?
Oh, yeah. I finished I'm up to date on
You're up to date, yeah.
The season. Yeah.
The part where Erica Jane starts crying on her husband's shoulders.
Yeah.
She's like, thank you.
Yeah. Because he helped her get that contract for Roxy Hart or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was really funny. I bet he eats that shit up.
Oh, yeah. He loves
Older
it. You
men
could
like
tell.
that.
You could tell. Like, he loves to, like, baby her, sort of.
It's so weird because, but you know, Hef used to love that too on
I was gonna say
Bunny
Real
House?
Housewives.
What was it called? Bunny House. That's a different
Girls
show.
Next Door.
Girls Next Door. Yeah. Yeah, that's such a weird dynamic to me. But I like how Erica is about it. Like, she's very matter of fact. Like, she's like, I've had these questions like my whole life. I'm fucking
right.
She doesn't let it phase her either. She's fucking tough.
Yeah. I love her. Like,
Me too.
She doesn't have drama or anything. Like, I want her to, or I'm sure she does, but she doesn't show it on the show, which fucking sucks.
She hardly ever like gets that overworked.
Yeah.
And part of me is like, can you just not move your face, or are you just for real like that?
No, but she's tight. I love her.
Yeah, she doesn't like insert herself either. Like Lisa will fucking insert herself and like get all up in it, which I also love.
Yeah. Oh, no, for real. You need a Lisa.
Fuck yeah.
We don't need a Teddy, but.
We don't need a Teddy, but y'all aren't ready for that conversation. Why is Teddy on the show? I would do anything to get Lisa back.
For real.
And Teddy
Yeah.
Bounce.
Even this fucking bitch Sutton, she's like stirring shit up.
She has me. Right when she got there, I was like, bitch, who is you? Like immediately stirring shit up. And with Teddy, who I don't like. So I was like, hell yeah.
I know. Well, the tea is that Sutton was supposed to, like, she filmed her intro with holding the diamond and everything, but the rest of the girls don't fuck with her. So they had her demoted to friend. That's why she's like all up in this season, but doesn't have a diamond.
May, I didn't know that.
Yes.
And now that makes sense because I totally just assumed she's a new cast member.
Yeah, but if you notice, she doesn't have an intro.
She does it. And Garcelle does.
Garcelle does, yeah.
Oh, I fuck with Garcelle so far.
Garcelle's a queen, though.
Yeah. She is such a queen. She's fucking serving.
Yes. Yeah, but I'm liking, like, the vibe that... I mean, somebody's got to cause the drama.
Oh, Sutton is causing drama. No, yeah. I'm here for... Keep her on the show. I don't like that bitch.
And then, also, I noticed that there's... I don't know, the way the show's being produced this season, it seems like there's... like, the way it's edited and stuff, I think the subtext has become... like more blatant, like it's in the forefront,
right?
And it's interesting. I like it. Like when Lisa Rinna put on that tiara or whatever, and it was like, the crown is heavy, darling. I was like, that was tight.
That was tight too. Did you see Lisa Rinna call out the fucking college scandals too? She was like, I hope you get into college because I'm not going to take a picture of you.
You on a rowing machine?
On a fucking rowing machine. Her daughter got all mad. She was like, Mom.
She's probably friends with her. Like,
I'm sure they know
they're
each
like
other.
The same age and shit.
Yeah, but Lisa don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I know.
I love Lisa.
Yeah, me too.
Dude, she's fucking
I
great.
need her to change her hair though, because she looks so good. Like when she walked the runway for Kyle's show, and she had like that long ponytail. I think she looks so fucking good.
Yeah, but I also do like, and it's also dated, and you're just kind of like, come on, like. Yeah. But also at this point, I do think it's kind of like
it's her trademark.
Yeah, so if she did it, it would be like, I'm sure we would be like, ooh, kind of hard to look at her or something.
Maybe,
or like you wouldn't think it's Lisa Rinna or something. Like remember when What's Her Face had that nose job? Felicity.
Felicity.
What's that show called?
Wait, but. The bitch from Felicity got a nose job? Because I was going to say Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing.
That's who I'm thinking of. Not Felicity. No, Felicity cut her hair, remember? And it was like hella drama.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting my situations confused.
That bitch has one of the all-time great heads of hair. Like, what was she doing?
Felicity?
Cutting her hair. Yes, Felicity.
Yeah, I wanted to start watching that show because my brother always told me that it was good and like he loved it when it came out.
I never watched it.
I never watched it.
But I did watch all of the Americans.
Oh, you did? How do you like that? They're together, right?
Yeah, they're together. I like that. Like I think it's a bad show. If you think of it as a show about spies, it's bad. Mm-hmm. Or no, that's strong language. It's just not great. But if you think of it as a show about marriage, then it's great because they're like married and not undercover, but like undercover spies.
Right.
Yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic, and the fact that they're together off screen, I think, adds another layer. I enjoy that show.
Okay, interesting. Okay,
wow, we have been
talking.
Many people over 30 probably never heard of Kurt Cobain, but for younger fans, his music captured the spirit of the difficult transition from youth to maturity.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Drama Club. My name is Stephanie,
and my name is May. This is the podcast about fantastic hair.
Yup. Nose jobs, celebrities, biographies, drama, gossip. What's up?
What up?
Okay, so this is a 2-part episode.
Yeah, a very special episode, I think.
Very special. If you remember 2 weeks ago, May did the story of Larry Flynt. Mm-hmm. And she talked about Courtney Love because she plays Larry's wife in the show. Althea, yeah. And at that time when we were recording, May blurted out, I want to do a Courtney Love episode. And I was like, oh, yeah, you should. And she was like, it would be cool if we did Kurt and Courtney as a twofer. And I was like, well, let's do it in 2 weeks, baby, because we got nothing else to plan for.
It's true.
So this week we're bringing you the stories of Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love.
All right. Let's get into it because I feel like
it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good too.
It's got to be good.
So I think for this, I kind of immersed myself in this more than I have in maybe ever for this podcast.
I did too. And I was like, is this because this is like also the era of MTV where I grew
MTV.
up?
Yeah.
Like I think it had something to do with that too. It was just like that nostalgia kind of.
Yeah, I think so too. And also it's like, I think it's one of the benefits of us doing just one episode a week.
Yeah.
Where it's like we don't have to like rush to finish a story. It's like you can kind of sit with something longer than before.
For sure. I got like crazy into Nirvana and I watched their whole Unplugged, and it was not for the
right, yeah.
It's not like I could write anything about it really. Like, yeah, that song was good. It's just because I was so into it.
I had already been sort of like on a 90s kick when Fiona Apple's album dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that
then
was
I
a whole
like,
ass phenomenon on
we
Twitter.
didn't talk
we
right,
didn't.
We didn't talk about it, but like it took over the internet.
That shit was crazy. Yeah. She for sure broke the internet.
And even so after that album dropped, I started thinking about there are other artists that I think are challenging to listen to that I enjoy, like Bjork. I love Bjork, but I'm never like sitting in my car like
right.
like
yeah.
So I had already sort of been on this thing. I was listening to like fucking Mobb Deep and shit. So I was like on my 90s shit. So happy to do Courtney. I watched her 2010 Behind the Music.
Ooh.
It's fucking great. Even though it's like that second wave of Behind the Music.
Yeah.
It has like the vibe of the early Behind the Musics.
Okay.
A documentary on the recording of her second solo album. A ton of MTV interviews from the 90s. Shout out to Kurt Loder.
Oh my God, Kurt Loder, you fucking king, for sure.
I think it was his birthday this week because he was trending on Twitter.
On Twitter, yeah. That's so funny.
And I watched the conspiracy documentary Soaked in Bleach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the conspiracy stuff, but
I don't like conspiracy stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
and
anyway.
And you know what's funny? Like when somebody I know likes that, or if I meet somebody that likes that stuff, I immediately kind of like.
Well, I like hearing it, but I never
but you don't believe it, right?
Yeah, I never like buy into it.
Yeah, because it's interesting to see how someone could connect it like that and make it make sense. But do I believe that? Not necessarily.
Right.
Most of the time, no.
So I watched all those things and like literally like half a dozen other things. I've been practically living with Courtney Love for the last 2 weeks.
My brother, I owe you $3 for a Jordan documentary I bought on Prime. Go ahead and watch it.
Go ahead.
I know, bitch, it's my Prime.
I thought he was gonna be like, "Don't watch it."
No, he's giving me permission to use my own Prime.
So Courtney Michelle Harrison was born on July 9th, 1964 in San Francisco. It kind of trips me out that she's like kind of my parents' age because she seems so much younger.
Yeah.
Okay, and she was the ultimate child of the counterculture. But more on that in a second. Let's back up a little bit and talk about her ancestry because it's fucking crazy.
Okay.
Courtney's great-grandmother was this Cuban woman named Elise de Sola Fox.
Interesting.
Who was a Hollywood screenwriter in the 1930s. This is wild because not only was she a woman screenwriter, but a Latina at that, actually working as a screenwriter. So shout out to Elise for that. And shout out to our Latina sister, Courtney Love.
That's why I was like, interesting. Courtney Love fuck with plátanos? Okay.
Anyway, just like Ryan Lochte, another
true,
secret Cuban.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's because Cubans are light skinned.
Anyway, that's another thing I kind of threw me off about that Indian movie that I was telling you about. I was like, why is everyone light skinned in this movie? But they have that problem over there of like colorism. We're like
the same as everyone.
Everywhere. Fucking everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was weird. Anyway, Elise had a daughter with her husband, Paul, but rejected that baby, her name was Paula, at birth and took off. And so did Paul. So he left Paula in an orphanage. But Elise's mother, Candelaria, found Paula and ended up moving her back to Cuba to take care of her until she quickly realized that she didn't have the means to provide for her.
Wow.
So Candelaria gave Paula up to this reverend from New York. This turned out to be the best thing for baby Paula, and it seems like she had a nice and stable childhood. She later became a very internationally acclaimed author. But in 1944, a 20-year-old Paula was studying under and living at the home of the great legendary acting teacher Stella Adler. While Paula was living with Stella, she got pregnant and, being so young, decided to give that child up for adoption.
Jesus.
And that child was Courtney's mother, Linda Carroll.
Wow.
At the time that Paula was living with Stella, there was another long-term house guest / student with whom she was briefly involved. And that person was, drum roll, Marlon Brando.
Wow.
Neither Paula nor Marlon would ever confirm or deny that Marlon was the father of Paula's baby, but their relationship fits the timeline, which means that it's possible, very possible, in fact, that Courtney Love's grandfather is Marlon Brando.
That's insane.
Yeah, fucking crazy. Courtney says that she isn't sure, obviously. How could she be? But she leans toward yes, because she says that before her first nose job, she thinks that she bears a resemblance to Marlon. And I have to say, it's kind of, I can kind of see that.
Find out for real now if she wanted to, right?
Yeah, if she did a DNA test with like the descendants with Christian's still alive, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another episode. Yeah, so I think it's possible. And I read that she once asked Warren Beatty to ask Marlon what he thought about it on her behalf. And that Warren actually came back with an answer, but she doesn't say what that answer was. She says she wants to keep that for her memoirs.
Interesting.
Paula was asked about Courtney in 2013 and gave The Observer this quote, "She's awful. She is awful. She's terrible. I met with her for an hour, and the hour was like an hour in the devil's pocket for both of us."
Ooh.
Per Page 6, Courtney responded, "Paula's absolute dislike of me is shocking and inexplicable." I feel really bad for both of them about this. Like,
yeah,
it's shitty because here's this woman, Paula, who was abandoned by her mother, and she gave up her own daughter thinking that that was that.
Yeah.
And like that would be the end of the line of this relationship. But then her granddaughter ends up being this infamous icon who is admittedly difficult and has a slew of her own problems. And she's now tied to, like it or not, Courtney.
Right.
And it sucks for Courtney because at the end of the day, that's your grandmother.
Yeah.
And her grandma, who literally doesn't know her, was like, "Nah, fuck that
her.
bitch." Yeah. I don't fuck with her. And that probably hurt really, really bad. So I don't know. It's a bad situation.
Yep.
Okay, so Courtney's mom, Linda, is a famous psychotherapist and marriage counselor. So like the line of these women is fucking crazy.
Right.
At the time that Courtney was born, Linda was still finishing up her education though, so she wasn't famous yet. And Courtney's dad, Hank, was a publisher and manager for the Grateful Dead. Courtney's godfather is Phil Lesh of the Grateful Dead. And at age 5, Courtney appeared on the back cover art for the Dead's album Axomoxa. So hopefully that sets a scene for you about like the kind of people that we're dealing with in the 60s.
Right.
So Hank was an amateur acid maker, because of course he was. And in 1969, Linda left him after she alleged that he'd given baby Courtney LSD.
Wow.
This all ended up in the papers at that time because Linda's adoptive parents were this really prominent and wealthy Bay Area couple. So this was actually news.
Mm-hmm.
Hank vehemently denied it, but Linda was awarded full custody and she moved baby Courtney to Oregon, where she completed her degree at the University of Oregon. So just like Marlon Brando and that story, it's hard to say with certainty if Hank really did give Courtney acid, but it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Right. You got an acid baker as a dad.
Right, exactly. And again, like Marlon Brando, Courtney leans towards it being true, which honestly would maybe explain a lot.
Right.
But like I said, who knows? So it's 1970 and Linda marries this dude named Frank Rodriguez, who high-key might be the best person to ever come into Courtney's life to this day. He immediately treated little Courtney like she was his own and legally adopted her. He and Linda went on to have 2 more daughters and also a son who unfortunately died when he was a baby and Courtney was 10. And they adopted another little boy. Linda and Frank ended up getting divorced, and that was really tough on little Courtney, who was already having difficulty at school and now started lashing out in general.
Ooh, just like Kurt. Anyways.
Interesting. Linda and Frank sent her to a psychologist when she was 9 who diagnosed her with being, quote, slightly schizoid.
Whoa.
Courtney correctly points out that not only is the diagnosis of, quote unquote, slightly, schizoid, not a real thing.
Yeah.
But also, schizoid personality disorder is usually diagnosed in early adulthood. So it would be very rare for a child, a 9-year-old, to receive that diagnosis, even if they did have like some symptoms. She also calls this man a pervert, although she doesn't go into details aside from saying that he kept pornography in his office. And her stepfather, Frank, actually backs her up on this and says that he was, quote, not a good man. So I literally shudder to think about what kind of damage this person did to a child who was already clearly troubled. Honestly, Courtney is probably on the spectrum, and if she just would have had the right care, I think she most likely would have thrived.
Right.
She's also really smart, too. So it's like, I don't know. It's like, I think about the way her life could have gone, and
Sad.
it's sad. So Linda quickly found a new man, married him, and moved her and her kids to New Zealand,
Whoa.
uprooting Courtney yet again, and popped a couple more kids out.
Damn.
Yeah, she's busy. This woman, Linda, Linda's a piece of work, actually.
Yeah. She got a shit ton of kids.
Mm-hmm. And I'm no expert, but Courtney, she needed stability.
Right.
Obviously. And so all these moves and changes and shit, like, it's not doing anybody any favors. And things quickly went south for Courtney in New Zealand. And within a year, her mother just kind of washed her hands of her.
Ooh. She got 8 other kids to worry about, so.
True. And also, she comes from a line of women who left their children.
Yeah, so it's like normal to her.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, Frank was like, I love her. Send her here. I'll raise her. So Courtney went back to Portland, where she was raised by him, and finally had some stability.
Mm-hmm.
This allowed her, for the first time, to immerse herself in stuff like art classes and acting classes, and she started to do really well. I don't know what it is about her, man, but I have like such a soft spot for her. It's like, I don't know.
Because the universe did her wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And like, she's so strong and talented and resilient.
Yeah.
You want to see her win. She's an underdog.
Yeah. And it's like at every turn of the story, there's like something.
And
like,
she surprises you. That's another huge thing too.
Yeah,
like
maybe.
I love somebody who, like, I don't know, just like surprises you, or just like you
For
think
sure.
you know, have them figured out, and then never mind. You know?
So she talks in her Behind the Music about how she felt like her mom didn't love her. Because
Right. Well, yeah.
she abandoned her.
Right.
So,
What kind of mom would
Right.
do that if they love their child?
Right. And it's not like she abandoned her, not like her grandmother who's like, okay, maybe somebody can give this child a better life. It wasn't like that. She was just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
You know,
Like, this is
fucking
too
sucks.
hard for me.
Yeah. So she's like, there was no other conclusion for her but that she must be worthless. She must be unlovable. There must be something wrong with her. And that just, it breaks my heart because she was just like a fucking kid.
Yeah.
God bless Frank and the people like him, dude. More on him later. At 14, Courtney was arrested for shoplifting a t-shirt. And there was drama, I think partially because she had that schizoid diagnosis on her record. So for some reason, I think they thought Frank wasn't equipped to take care of her. So they took her from him and she was sent to juvie.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then after she finished her sentence in juvie, they put her in foster care, where she was repeatedly molested until she was able to get legally emancipated at 16.
Oh my God.
She then starts stripping. Obviously illegally because she was still underage.
Uh-huh.
Which is why, this is also why she was perfect in the role of Althea. Because
Right.
this is exactly Althea's story, basically.
Yeah.
So this is also when she started using the stage name Love while she was dancing. So she has a million jobs during this time, dancing, DJing at gay clubs, picking berries, you name it, all to support herself and to pay tuition at Portland State, where she was studying English and philosophy all before the age 17.
That's insane.
By
Because she has
8
no parent telling her go to college.
Right, exactly.
She's just going to college. And it wasn't a time back then where like that was a thing. Women went to college.
It wasn't
know?
expected of her in any way, shape,
women
or form.
were expected to get married and settle
Right.
down and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, I don't know. Are we still in the 60s or is it 70s now?
It's late 70s now.
Oh, okay. So it's not. I'm
I
thinking
mean,
of
like,
a different era, but still.
no, but you're right. There was no if she wanted to do that, cool. It was like the era where she could have done that, or she could not. She could have like easily done whatever
Yeah.
the fuck.
Exactly. And she still chose.
Yeah, exactly. And also she's just like, I think the way her mind works, I think that she's just like drawn to reading and history and
Higher
stuff.
learning.
She just, yeah. By 18 in 1981, she got her trust fund because remember her adoptive grandparents were pretty wealthy.
Uh-huh.
And so she used that money to move to Ireland where her biological father was living so that she could go to Trinity College, which is awesome since she was into philosophy.
Right.
I'm not sure what happened there though because she left school after a year and moved to Liverpool to hang out with bands and sort of experience that scene for a little bit. In 1983, she then moved to Japan and later to Taiwan where she worked again as a dancer. When she got back to the States, her focus shifted to music, and she tried to get a few bands off the ground in both Portland and San Francisco, but nothing quite worked out. She was briefly a singer for Faith No More. Do you remember that band?
Yeah, wow.
Anyway, they kicked her out because they wanted to have a male frontman instead. So then she moved to Minnesota for a little bit. Shout out to Minnesota, where her homegirl, Kat Balin from the band Babes in Toyland lived. She moved there to work as a concert promoter.
Okay.
So she was working in the industry, I guess, but like that's not what she really wanted.
Right.
So Kat says that one day Courtney told her, quote, "I'm going to go to LA, I'm going to get my face done, and I'm going to be famous." And then she did.
So Courtney has a trust fund though, so that's why she's able to do a bunch of this shit.
It was like not like a huge trust fund,
Right?
but it was enough for her to make that initial move. I think she said the number. I want to say it was like $1,000 a month or something. It was
That's
like
a lot back then.
It was enough for her to move to Ireland and pay her tuition at Trinity, and then when she left school, it was enough to like finance her her travels to Asia, and then that was it. Like I think she spent it at that point.
Okay.
So Courtney then decided to see if she could become an actress and get her career off the ground that way. She enrolled at the San Francisco Art Institute to study and actually got an audition for the role of Nancy in 1986's Sid and Nancy, which I think you talked about in the Sid and Nancy episode.
Yeah.
She didn't get the Nancy part, which I think would have been perfect for her. But
yeah, it makes no fucking sense.
In the Kurt Loder interview I saw, she was like, "But thank God I didn't, because it would have."
It was a bad movie.
Yeah, and it would have changed the whole trajectory of her life. She wouldn't have done anything that she ended up doing afterwards. But.
Right.
So the director, Alex Cox, was so captivated by her that he offered her a small part in that film and the lead in his next film, Straight to Hell, which filmed in Spain with Joe Strummer of The Clash and Grace Jones. And she worked at a peep show in Times Square for extra cash in between these roles. But Alex Cox really changed her life because Andy Warhol saw her in Straight to Hell and interviewed her for his talk show, Andy Warhol's 15 Minutes, which in turn led to her appearing in the video for the Ramones' I Want to Be Sedated. So she was becoming not like famous, but definitely New York famous.
She was like an it girl.
Yeah, for sure. She kind of wasn't feeling that sort of attention. Like, it seems like she was just famous enough to be annoyed by the fame, but still, like, poor.
Right.
You know? And still not getting any of the perks of fame. So she left New York and moved back to Oregon and kept dancing. But even there, guys at the club would still be like, "Where do I know you from?"
Yeah.
And it was still the same shit. So she ended up moving to Alaska, again, to work as a dancer and to come up with a more concrete plan for the future. Finally, near the end of 1988, she did move to LA and started working at Jumbo's Clown Room.
Oh.
There's a place I hope will survive in a post-COVID-19 world because, I mean, I don't know if they're going to
That's true, actually. Wow.
still be there.
Yeah.
Anyway, Courtney taught herself to play guitar while she was in Alaska.
Yeah, because what the fuck else is there to do over there?
Exactly. Stripping for fucking fishermen.
Yeah.
And so good on her, dude. She really did take that time to get her shit together.
Yeah.
And she took out, so now we're back in LA, and she took out an ad in a local paper that said, quote, "I want to start a band. My influences are Big Black, Sonic Youth, and Fleetwood Mac," and her phone number.
How funny.
And then the rest is history.
Yeah.
Hole was formed based off of that ad in early 1989. Fucking crazy.
She was like, I want to start a band.
Yeah.
Hit me up.
505-539-0556. So there have been a lot of people in Hole over the years, but its main members are Courtney and the lead guitarist / co-writer Eric Erlandson. And the two of them just really fucking complimented each other from the jump.
Yeah.
Right before she put out the ad, Courtney was married to a dude from some fucking band for like 5 seconds. That marriage was quickly annulled, and she and Eric dated for over a year. But obviously the friendship and working relationship outlasted their romantic one. So this is it. This is Hole. And Courtney was doing whatever it took to make sure that this thing succeeded. She continued to dance at Jumbo's and at the Seventh Veil to buy the band's equipment and a van and like whatever else they needed. This went on for about a year until the end of 1989 when Hole finally played their first show and got some radio interest from K-Rock for their first single, for their first single, R Word Girl. To me, this song isn't great, but I think it shows a lot of potential. And somehow, some way, by the end of 1990, Hole opened for Sonic Youth at the Whiskey.
Nice.
And a few months later, Courtney wrote Kim Gordon a letter begging her to produce Hole's album, and Kim said yes.
Wow.
And later that year,
It's
Hole
crazy how
dropped...
Kim pretty much like, I don't know, she like made Nirvana. Like she got them too.
Right.
Yeah. She's so smart.
She's a visionary.
Oh yeah.
I want to read her
every
book.
time it's so fucking good,
Yeah,
May. Oh God, I love it. That's a book that I pre-ordered. I was so excited. I always think of when I fucking freaked out when I saw her at a.
I always think about that too because you couldn't get it out. Like,
I know.
Please now, tell me.
May. And May was like, what? What? And you were looking around like, what?
Yeah, I for sure want to read her book. I also want to read Patti Smith's book, the one about her friendship with Robert Mapplethorpe.
Yeah, I want to read a Patti Smith book. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So where was I? Okay, so Kim Gordon said yes, which is fucking wild too. Like, shout out to her. And later that year, Hole dropped their debut album, the critically acclaimed "Pretty on the Inside." Again, to me, I don't love this album, especially in hindsight. I think it's just compared to like what comes later. But I bet in 91 when there wasn't a whole lot of music like this out, it must have been like pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely was because Hole became kind of buzzy indie darlings and toured with Mudhoney, and on the back of that opened for the Smashing Pumpkins. Pumpkins the Pumpkin one. And during that tour, Courtney dated Billy Corgan, and they were super hot and heavy for a minute. But I think that both of them were just having fun, and they just like got along so well that it wasn't like a big like serious thing for both of them. They were just like they understood each other, so they knew like, oh, this is just for fun, you know?
Right.
And even after they broke up, they remained really close friends even to this day. I saw Billy talking about how no matter their ups and downs, they will always love each other, and he will always be there for her because they've just been through so much together, drugs, relationships, career, whatever, but they like always find each other. Another reason why it didn't work out was, of course, because Courtney met Kurt Cobain that same year.
Hey.
And on that note, I'm going to let Stephanie take over.
Hand over the mic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about Kurt. Kurt is pretty famously from Washington. I think that's like kind of goes hand in hand with Kurt.
Yeah. I never understood his accent. But then, like, I was watching, like, some documentary.
It's like Dory. No, like James Franco. He talks like he's from Brooklyn or something. And
I saw, like, some people that he grew up with, and they all talk like that. Mm-hmm. So I think that is an accent from up there.
Okay. So Kurt was born in 1967 in Aberdeen, Washington, small-ass town. Mm-hmm. His mom was a waitress, and his dad was a mechanic. And he had a sister that was born 3 years after him. Okay. Like pretty much every songwriter I've covered on here, he was very musically inclined very early on. He had a family that loved music. His parents loved jazz. His uncles were in bands and shit.
Mhm.
And so he was playing piano and writing music by like age 4.
Wow.
I think his dad said something like he wrote a song like one day, like I went to the park and like would
Oh,
sing it and stuff.
yeah. Did you see that little girl singing this week who
Oh,
was
that was
like,
so cute.
I wonder what's inside your butthole?
Yeah. Such like a funny, innocent thing that only a kid could
Yeah.
do, right?
It slapped though.
Yeah, hey. So growing up, Kurt's favorite bands were Electric Light Orchestra. Shout out to my dad.
Aw. No, I like Electric Light
Well,
Orchestra.
so do I, but it's totally my dad's
Yeah.
thing, you know? And the Beatles.
Oh.
So Kurt's parents divorced when he was 9, and just like Courtney, this had a profound effect on his life.
Mm-hmm.
He became super withdrawn and super rebellious, and he said that for some reason he felt ashamed about it when he was a kid.
Oh, because people didn't get divorced back then.
Yeah, and it was kind of like something shameful back then.
Yeah. Remember on Mad Men that bitch Helen Bishop who goes to
Oh,
live
yeah.
on in their neighborhood, and then everyone's like, oh,
Ooh.
she's divorced.
Yeah. He said he wanted to have a classic family and that kind of security that came with having a classic family. So he resented his parents for not being able to make it work. And after that, music just kind of became his refuge.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt's dad moved on and got married shortly after to a woman who had 2 children of her own. So then Kurt moved in with his dad, the new wife, and her kids. And so this was super hard on him. He gained a half brother, and at that point, his sister says, like, Kurt, you don't understand. Like, Kurt was the son. He was like the golden child of our family.
Oh.
So then they got a half brother, and suddenly he wasn't really special anymore.
Yeah.
So Kurt's mom, so then on the other side of things, Kurt's mom started dating a man who was abusing her.
No.
And so they were living with both parents, and his mom had one time gotten hospitalized for the guy had broke her arm. And
What the fuck?
Kurt had seen a bunch of this stuff go down, and he says that his mom always refused to press charges. Even the time that he broke her arm, she refused to press charges against him. So he's like, it's so hard as a kid to see your parent do this to themselves.
Mm-hmm. And he's like just old enough to where he knows what it is, right? Because he's like, what, 10, 11, 12?
Yeah. So his uncle around this time in his life gifted him his first guitar, and then Kurt completely devoted his free time to learning to play his own music and write his own songs. Meanwhile, at school, he's still being really rebellious and starts bullying other kids. And his dad took him to a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And his mother at that time signed over full custody to his dad, which was unprecedented. Like, that didn't happen back then.
Right.
But she was in a really bad place. And I think she was like, it's better that you guys stay with your dad.
Okay.
So Kurt's dad tried to push him into like sports and shit, but Kurt was not having it. He said at this point in school, he liked being left alone. And so he found that befriending gay people would get others to leave him alone, because then they would just think that he was gay. And since this was like so controversial at that time, that's what he liked, to be left alone. So that's how he would go about it. Later on, he says that he thinks he might be bisexual, and he's somebody that we would see out and about in Courtney's dresses.
Oh, yeah, for
So
sure.
he was definitely comfortable with his sexuality and its fluidity.
Yeah. I've seen like earlier this year, I saw there was like a whole Reddit thread about people saying that he was trans. And I feel like that's kind of fucked up, because I mean, it's not fucked up to be trans. I mean, it's like fucked up to push that agenda on someone.
Yeah, I don't like when people do that to anybody that's no longer here. Like,
Yeah.
it also kind of, I don't know. I just don't like when people do that.
Mm-hmm.
So Kurt's dad couldn't handle all of him, and he ended up leaving him in the care of various family members.
Oh, shit.
And at one point, Kurt was living with this uncle who was super Christian, and so Kurt became a crazy devout Christian.
Wow.
And then later on completely renounced Christianity.
Uh-huh.
In his sophomore year of high school, Kurt moved back in with his mom, dropped out 2 weeks before graduation upon realizing that he wasn't going to have enough credits to graduate anyways.
Oh.
So his mom gave him the ultimatum, get a job or get out. A week later, she had packed his shit in boxes, and he took off to squat with friends. occasionally sneaking back into his mom's house to sleep.
Wow.
By this point, he was pretty into the punk Seattle scene, and he hung out with the Melvins and was a huge Black Flag fan. So he was always going to shows and shit and just in that scene. He met a woman named Tracy Maringer, and they started a romantic relationship. Tracy helped support Kurt while working at the Seattle Tacoma airport, and he would just work on his, quote, band that he had started.
Okay.
The description, like when she talks about the relationship, it reminds me of that one daydream that Daria has when she's
When she
married
marries
to
Trent?
Yeah. And she's like a chemist, and she comes home and he's on the couch talking about changing the name of Mystic Spiral. I started laughing. So Kurt was like, I'm gonna start a band. He gets together with his high school friend Chris Novoselic, and they start jamming out together. Kurt and Chris are having trouble first finding a good drummer and later drawing a substantial crowd at their gigs. But in 1988, they finally found Chad Channing and settled on the band named Nirvana and recorded their debut album named Bleach in 1989.
Nice.
Meanwhile, Kurt started work as a janitor at a local YMCA and discovered his fondness for codeine and Vicodin, which his coworkers helped him get.
Is it he was at the airport?
No. YMCA.
At the YMCA. Oh, okay. Because I was like, are they confiscating this from people?
I imagine, right? So Kurt and Tracy broke up, but no worries, because he's in Washington during the start of the new decade that would define his life and many of ours, the motherfucking 90s.
Yes.
In 1990, he met the woman, the myth, the legend, Toby Vale, known mostly for being in Bikini Kill. When they met, Kurt allegedly vomited because he was instantly infatuated with her, and he says he couldn't control himself and shit.
Wow.
I know, so romantic.
Oh, God. That's how I met your mother.
He thought of Toby as his counterpart, but they were never going to work as a couple because they just wanted totally different things. Obviously, they had a ton in common and they were attracted to each other. But remember that Kurt had gone through this crazy hard divorce as a kid with his parents.
Yeah.
And he was looking for the comfort and safety of a traditional type of relationship. And Toby was a huge feminist activist who saw traditional relationships as sexist and demeaning. They collabed together on a group called Bathtub is Real. And they dropped some songs, and they both sang and played instruments, hung out and discussed politics, but pretty quickly called it quits as a couple.
Okay.
Fun fact. While discussing punk and anarchism with Kathleen Hanna, another member of Bikini Kill.
She's going to come up later in my story.
Hell yeah. Kathleen spray painted Kurt Smells Like Teen Spirit on his apartment wall.
Oh, yeah.
Teen Spirit was the name of the deodorant that Toby wore, but Kurt didn't know that. And so he thought this was like some revolutionary statement. Another fun fact. In the 4 months following their split, Kurt wrote half a dozen of Nirvana's most memorable songs that would come to encompass Nevermind.
Wow.
Okay, so back to Nirvana. Kurt ended up having a ton of style differences with the drummer that they had found, Chad, so they ended up kicking him out of the band. He and Chris then also put an ad up that they were looking for a drummer, and they met and hired local drummer Dave Grohl. Shout out to Dave Grohl. Just the fucking coolest guy, right? There's a cool white boy in me.
Cool white boy, for sure.
Yeah, we don't even have to fucking argue with that for a second.
Yeah,
he's cool. Dave Grohl, you up there. You up there with Dave Hawkins. With Dave, Kurt and Chris found perfect harmony. And he jumped on just in time to record the 1991 major label debut, Nevermind. Nirvana's sound was a blend of hard rock, punk attitude, and alt rock of the 80s. Not that I have to describe it. We all know what Nirvana sounds like, right?
Yeah.
Kurt had met Kim Gordon in Washington, and she heard Nirvana, and then she helped sign them on to what is now known as A&M Records. And that's how they were able to record Nevermind. It became the huge hit, and then they went on tour with Sonic Youth that summer. So everything is set in place for the inevitable bomb that would be Nirvana, the band.
Yeah.
While still part of this emerging underground alt rock scene, Kurt met a girl named
Courtney.
Courtney. Yeah. Courtney Love at Satyricon nightclub.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt was still coming off the breakup from Toby and was not really interested in Courtney's advances at first. He would blow off dates and ignore her because at this time, like I said, he was coming off the breakup. He just wasn't sure he wanted to jump into another full-blown thing.
Yeah.
And
also you got to be at least partially distracted by the fact that you've got like a lot of music coming out too.
yeah, it's like you just like somehow dropped the biggest album of the decade and you don't even know it.
Right.
So he wanted to be single and obviously focus on Nirvana, which I think we've all gone through those moments where you're longing for that kind of freeness.
Yeah.
Not that I think his behavior towards Courtney was okay. The way I hear him and her describe it, it kind of seemed to me like he was playing fuckboy games with her at first in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And Courtney was up for the challenge and pursued him even when faced with that rejection, eventually winning him over.
I heard her say something really funny. She was like, she just thought he was really cute. Like she was crushing on him.
Right.
And she was like, he was so cute. And I saw his nose. And she said he had the cutest nose in rock and roll aside from Axl Rose. And I wasn't going to breed with Axl Rose.
That's funny. I guess if you've had a nose job, you should look for someone with a great nose, right?
You have to like
That's
balance it out.
Yeah.
And also I think Courtney has like she has a like a chip on her shoulder about her looks.
Yeah.
So I think of course that was important to her.
Right. Okay, so Smells Like Teen Spirit became the lead single and the band jumped straight into the mainstream, popularizing this subgenre of rock that became known as grunge. The album sold over 10 million copies. I'm not going to go into how fucking gigantic Nevermind and Nirvana was because, like I said, it just defined this fucking decade. And we're all of that age. Like, we all know that. I don't think we have listeners that wouldn't know this era.
Or maybe if they weren't there, they realized like the shadow that era cast on like the rest of the decade.
Right. So suffice to say, it was fucking gigantic and led to this wave of other Seattle music and grunge music and all this stuff hitting the mainstream.
Mm-hmm. And the fashion.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah. Fashion, style, like attitude, everything.
Yeah.
So Kurt was very not okay with how huge Nirvana became. Mm-hmm. He wasn't ready for it to blow up this way. He was almost homeless right before during the recording of the album and everything, you know? Mm-hmm. He was kind of involved in this underground roots scene, and suddenly he was on the cover of magazines all over MTV. Right. He was persecuted by the media. Mm-hmm. And I was gonna go back and look at all the episodes where it's like fame happened too fast for them. Like it's a recipe for disaster.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He felt like a lot of the hype was built by people who didn't even acknowledge or care about his social or political views and what the band stood for. Uh-huh. And he was really proud of being an opponent of racism and sexism and homophobia, but nobody else seemed to give a shit about that part of him and the band.
Yeah, for sure.
They just liked his greasy hair and ripped up thermal and the fact that he and Courtney were at this time like modern day Sid and Nancy. Mm-hmm. So the band went on tour right after the release of the album, and the record label wanted them to jump on another tour right when they came back because the album had jumped to number 1. But Kurt fucking refused publicly, only making him seem cooler to his fans when that news came out.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because it's like, oh, he's not even in it for the money. He's against this corporate bullshit.
And then all of that is now adding to like the pressure of this person that now he has like the character of Kurt Cobain, that now he has to like carry this mantle of being that guy.
Right. That's too much.
Yeah. And we have to remember they're young.
They're young as fuck. Yeah. So it's like 1990. He was born in 67. He's 23 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fucking crazy. How many times have we said that? Remember me at 23? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Kurt at this time obviously still interested in championing his homies indie bands by covering their music and wearing their t-shirts during different photo shoots and interviews. And this ended up making the scene of music he was in, like grunge, way bigger too, because he had a lot of pull.
Yeah.
So anyone he let sit on his coattail kind of ended up getting this bigger fan base and becoming more successful. And then we saw alt rock and grunge just kind of take over the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Then Nirvana dropped In Utero to another round of massive commercial success and another world tour full of drugs and booze.
Yeah.
After In Utero is when they did Unplugged. I didn't write anything about Unplugged, but Unplugged was huge. Like Nirvana only has 3 albums. So if you don't count Unplugged, their catalog of music is really small. So their Unplugged was really big. And for me, that's how I remember Kurt. Like that picture of him in that green cardigan performing.
Same. Because when we were kids, that was MTV and they would play it all the time.
Yeah. I read this funny thing about their Unplugged, that Kurt had like a lot of problems playing his music acoustically. So his is not unplugged. His is totally, and when I rewatched it, I was like, oh my God, this is totally not acoustic.
Yeah.
All right.
And that Unplugged is great. I listened to it. I didn't watch it. I should watch it.
You should. It's so good.
But I listened to it and I was like, did not remember that they don't really play any of their...
They don't play any hits and they mostly play covers.
Right. They mostly play covers. The only like hit is Come As You Are.
Yeah. And that was like him throwing them a bone because he was fighting with MTV.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. So then Kurt and Courtney got married in Hawaii on February 24th, 1992, days after finishing Nirvana's Pacific Rim tour. Courtney famously wore a satin and lace dress once owned by Francis Farmer, and Kurt wore green pajamas because he had, quote, been too lazy to put on a tux. There were only 8 people in attendance, including Dave Grohl. She was pregnant, and Francis was born in August later that year. Kurt really loved Francis, and I think that he wanted to be a good dad.
Yeah.
Because he definitely, like I said, Kurt has this whole thing about him. Not thing, but like, what is that? Like, just this chip on his shoulder about he wants that family. Because of what he had gone through with his own family.
And the expectations of just like anyone who grew up in that era, I think, to have that perfect white picket fence
cookie
bullshit.
Cutter shit.
Yeah. A station wagon.
Yeah. But this proved to be way too hard for him and Courtney. The media surrounded them as a couple like all times. Like whatever they did was like on the cover of shit because they were like typical rock stars, and you don't really get a rock star like that often anymore.
Especially not 2 of them together.
Yeah. And then everything got heightened after Courtney famously gave an interview where she said she was still using heroin when she found out she was pregnant. I didn't say much about that because I figured you covered that drama.
So that was September of 1992, and that was in Vanity Fair.
Yeah.
It was a story called Strange Love, which I think you should read if you're interested in this couple, which I figure listeners of this podcast probably are, and also fans of Vanity Fair, which you guys know we all are.
Yeah.
Right? So Courtney admitted in this interview that she used heroin while she was pregnant, which resulted in Francis being taken from the couple by Child Protective Services and primary custody given to Courtney's sister, Jamie.
Right.
Courtney subsequently clarified that while she did use heroin early in the pregnancy, as soon as she found out she was pregnant, she quit.
Right.
So she suggests that she was misquoted in Vanity Fair.
Right. Like they made it seem like she was using, like her and Kurt were using.
Yeah.
But it was like a lot of women who before they know they're pregnant maybe still have alcohol, or smoke cigarettes or whatever. Yeah. Well, she was a heroin user, so maybe she did heroin,
right. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about Courtney, if you think that she's believable and like when she says stuff like this. I feel like I think Courtney is honest to a fault, except for about her use of drugs, about her addiction, which I think is normal.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think that's what addicts do, right?
Right. So I mean, but I do I believe this because she seems just like Kurt, I think that she has this like desire to have this family and this child and have it be perfect.
It's also funny to me, like you think of them and who they are, I don't know, as individuals and like their style and everything. And then it's like they got married in Hawaii, you know, like there's something so traditional and corny about that.
Quaint.
Yeah. And it's like so off brand. And I actually love it because it's so honest and
right.
And people think that because you like certain things, like maybe that's a personality trait or you do certain things, but not necessarily, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Some shit is just facades. I actually really like that they got married like that.
I know, by themselves, basically.
Yeah. That's sweet.
So like the last thing I have to say about their relationship together is that the public, who had already seriously vilified her at this point, rightfully lost their shit at like her for endangering her baby, and Courtney's reputation basically never recovered.
Right.
It's really shitty. Like she had
the worst thing she could have said.
It is the worst thing she could have said.
What could be worse than that?
Because she was already looked at, like people were already calling her like Yoko Ono, but worse or whatever. And then like on top of everything, this happens. So So go on. That's all I have.
Okay. So also another thing with Kurt, which people always talk about, and I don't know if I believe, and Dave Grohl has said he doesn't know if he believes, but Kurt claimed that he had a chronic stomach condition, which caused him like excruciating pain. And so
I didn't know that Dave doesn't believe this.
Yeah. So he says that this pushed his drug use because the pain caused him to self-medicate with everything, basically. Like everything. He says weed, LSD, acid, alcohol. Like, I'm sorry, but no. And
Crohn's,
a lot of
right? Is it Crohn's
that's what they believe? I mean, it's undiagnosed.
It's undiagnosed, yeah.
So a lot of people in the band and like people that know him just say that he used to say that just to like kind of give himself an excuse, or justify his own drug use.
Yeah.
But basically, Kurt Cobain, looking back now and like revisiting his life and everything, okay, sorry. Revisit that. Why does that sound wrong? Revisiting his life in this concise way, like I have for the episode.
Yeah.
He literally lived the most high risk, unhealthy lifestyle I can fucking think of.
Yeah, true.
Including his depression. Kurt's family had a history of suicide and alcoholism. 2 of his uncles died by suicide.
Wow.
And Kurt just didn't use or didn't care to seek any resources to help him deal with all of those emotional problems that he had.
Yeah.
Around 1986, Kurt began using heroin, and he used it sporadically until Nirvana blew up at the end of 1990. At this point, he was full-blown addicted. And Kurt would talk about it publicly and said that he feels like he was kind of determined to become an addict. Like he wasn't addicted at first, but then he was like kind of determined. So he used it several days in a row.
What? That's just like just self-destructive.
Exactly. Like he's just kind of like he sees the limit and he fucking pushes himself over it.
Yeah.
You know, he recognizes it. He knows he should stop. Right. But he's just like, nah.
Courtney talks about using heroin in the 80s too. And it's like, I don't think I don't get that vibe from her that she was determined to become an addict. I think she was just fucking partying.
Yeah,
she
like
was
having a good time.
Young. Yeah. You think you're indestructible. And she said it was like the cool thing to do. Like if you weren't doing heroin, you weren't fucking cool. Like in those circles.
Imagine in that scene. Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure. Kurt's drug use heavily affected the Nevermind tour. They were famously set to perform in SNL in 1992. By the way, you could see some promos of them with Charles Barkley, which is like the most awkward thing in the world. It's really cute. But you know how SNL does those photo sessions with the people that are going to be on?
Good.
Yeah. Kurt fell asleep during the first round of photo sessions. God. So for a while, they were going to not do the episode. And it was like a whole fucking thing. Anyways, Kristen.
Imagine Lorne Michaels.
Oh my God. Kristen and Dave Grohl were fucking not having it. Like they were getting tired of Kurt and his antics.
And Dave doesn't do anything, right?
No,
he's kind of
sober,
kind of,
right? For the most part, you know?
Yeah.
And Dave, I think now seeing Dave's career and how it like fucking flourished after Nirvana, I bet like at that point Dave was, he's the drummer. Like he was in the shadow of who Kurt Cobain was and all of that. And so I bet he was like dying to break free.
Right. Yeah.
In July 1993, Kurt suffered an overdose of heroin while he was with Courtney. She injected him with naloxone instead of calling an ambulance. And then Kurt got a surge of energy and she threw him on stage to perform with Nirvana right after. This was like behind stage of a show. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
you're good. Get up there.
You better go make that money.
Make that money. Shit.
After a tour stop at Terminal Elms in Munich, Kurt was diagnosed with bronchitis and laryngitis. So now we're in March 1994. He was flown to Rome for medical treatment where he was then joined by his wife, Courtney. The next morning, Courtney woke up and found that Kurt had overdosed on champagne and Rohypnol. He was rushed to the hospital where he was unconscious for the rest of the day. And then he stayed hospitalized for 5 days afterwards before finally being released and returned to Seattle with Courtney. Later, Courtney says this was his first suicide attempt, but that's not the way that it was diagnosed or treated at the time. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of went under the radar in the media and in their lives. Like she didn't tell him to seek help or she didn't, how do you say that? She didn't react to it as a suicide attempt.
Well, it's like you said that he lived a very reckless lifestyle. So this could absolutely,
be overseen or overlooked at as...
Yeah. He took too many pills is what I always hear friends of his say. Like, we all just thought he took too many pills.
Right. On March 18th, 1994, Courtney called Seattle police because Kurt had locked himself in a room with a gun. So this was just a few days after coming home from Rome to Seattle. She told police that he was suicidal. They arrived and confiscated several guns and a bottle of pills from Kurt, who insisted that he was not suicidal. Rather, he just needed space from Courtney, which I think is such a shitty thing for him to have said.
Yeah, for sure.
Courtney arranged an intervention on March 25th, 1994, including his friends, musicians, some record company execs. It was unsuccessful and immediately pissed him off. He went upstairs and locked himself in a bedroom before Courtney pleaded with him, and finally everybody got him to agree to enter a detox program.
I saw that Courtney told Barbara Walters that this was her biggest regret, this intervention.
Really?
She said that she feels that he felt attacked, and she said that she should have known that he would have felt that way as an addict and as his partner.
Yeah, that's true, actually, because he's so sensitive, and she should know him that well. Like, that's not the way to approach that.
So she said that she felt like this is the moment, the time that she looks back and says, like, could I have done anything? And she says that this is the moment where, okay, I should not have done that. And she said that during this intervention, she also told him that he had dropped Frances.
Had he?
Yes. But she said that
I was going to say obviously. I don't want to say obviously, but like, it doesn't shock me.
And she said that they were always sweet to each other, but that she was obviously furious that he had dropped the baby. And she told him, like, you dropped Frances. And she said that, like, in hindsight, like, she saw the change in his, like, I can't, like, I did, he accepted.
Because he's so sensitive and he's, like, going to blame himself for that forever, you know? Ooh. So then on March 30th, 1994, Kurt entered the Exodus Recovery Center in Los Angeles. The staff were not aware of his prior suicide attempts or the history of depression in his family and in himself. I know. But Kurt's depression, I think, kind of went undiagnosed and obviously untreated his whole life. But I think his depression goes all the way back, like to his parents' divorce, right?
For sure.
Yeah, and like that self-destructive rebellion that people back then probably was like, oh, he's a fucking teenager or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was definitely depressed probably most of his life, and that wasn't documented by any doctors or anybody.
Right.
So I don't think that the people at the recovery center grasped the fucking like
the magnitude of like what they were dealing with.
Yeah, like he needed to be put on, what is that hold called?
5150.
Yeah, 5150 hold. Like that's what he needed, but they didn't do that. Okay, so friends who visited him didn't see him in any sort of suicidal state of mind, is what they said. They said that he spent the first day talking to counselors, playing guitar with his daughter. Frances is very famously said that that's the last moment he spent with his daughter. And then the very next night, Kurt walked outside of the facility under the guise of wanting a cigarette, and he then hopped a 6-foot fence and took off. He grabbed a cab to LAX and flew directly to Seattle. His family and friends did not know where he was. On April 2nd and 3rd, he was spotted around town by fans in Seattle. On April 3rd, Courtney called and hired a private investigator to help find Kurt. He was not seen by anyone on April 4th. On April 7th, Nirvana pulled out of Lollapalooza amidst rumors of a pending breakup. On April 8th, Kurt's body was discovered at his home in Seattle by electrician Gary Smith. I don't know, should I say his last name? Who had arrived to install a security system. The only trauma at that time was minor blood coming out of his ear. So Gary said he didn't even think that he was really dead until he saw the shotgun next to him. They found a suicide note addressed to his imaginary friend Boda, and then one addressed to Courtney. The toxicology report found a large concentration of heroin and diazepam in his system at the time of his death. The coroner then estimated that Kurt had died around April 5th.
Oh, so his body had been sitting there
for like 3 days.
Yeah.
He was 27 years old.
Wow.
A public vigil was held for Cobain on April 10th, 1994 at Seattle Center, drawing approximately 7,000 mourners. And pre-recorded messages by Chris and Courtney Love were famously played at the memorial because she read portions of the suicide note that he had left to her to the crowd. He also left a note to Frances, actually. I forgot to mention that. And in those recordings are so sad. Don't listen to them. She's like crying and saying she doesn't know what she would have done. And she's
like angry.
Yeah, she chastises him.
It's like everything.
All
it's every
once.
emotion at once, which is, I mean,
horrendous
that's exactly
to listen to. Yeah. Near the end of the vigil, Courtney showed up and she distributed some of his clothes to people who were still gathered around. Grohl said that the news of Cobain's death was, quote, probably the worst thing that has ever happened to me in my life. I remember the day after that I woke up and I was just like, what? He's gone? And I just felt like, okay, so I get to wake up today and have another day and Kurt doesn't. I can't imagine what it feels like for the band members.
Yeah, because that's your brother, basically.
And nobody knows like the magnitude of Nirvana and everything. Nobody else knows what that feels like other than the two other guys. So now one of them is gone and you're like, where do I go from here?
Yeah.
That's another reason why I love Dave Grohl so much.
What? Just like what he's been through?
That he came out of those fucking... for lack of a better word, ashes and like rose.
For sure. Because he could have easily just drunk himself into oblivion or something or whatever.
And lived off those royalties forever, you know? Like he didn't have to keep going, but he did. And amen. Kurt's final ceremony was arranged by his mother on May 31st, 1999. His daughter Frances scattered his ashes into McLean Creek in Olympia, Washington.
Oh, that's where they lived, right?
Yeah.
Like Olympia?
Yeah, R.I.P. Kurt Cobain.
R.I.P.
The most
too young.
Too young. One of the most influential and talented musicians in history.
Yeah, for sure.
So fucking horrible.
Oh. So
and I'm gonna. I'll hand the mic back over to you.
I'm gonna pick up a week after Kurt's death in April of 1994.
All right.
That's when Hole released their second album.
Wow.
The amazing, the iconic Live Through This.
Yeah. Ugh.
I have some thoughts / hot takes about Hole, I guess, because as a matter of personal preference, I like Hole more than Nirvana.
Ooh.
but I don't know if that's a hot take because that's just personal preference.
Right.
Like, I listen to this album all the time, way more than Nevermind. But my hot take is that I would say that objectively, Live Through This is just as good as Nevermind.
Wow, man, that's crazy interesting because I would for sure be like, no, I definitely like Nirvana more than Hole. But now that you say that, I for sure listen to Live Through This more than Nevermind because
there's no skips on Live Through This, first of all.
Yeah, and I've been listening to Nevermind, like I said, like the last week and a half since I've been working on this, and like, yeah, I've definitely listened to it more than ever, and probably Live Through This, I've done that before, just on my own.
I think that the
maybe because we're girls, not to.
Yes, for sure, 1000%. But I would say that the great songs on Live Through This are just as great as the great songs on Nevermind.
Yeah, because I don't really fuck with Smells Like Teen Spirit, but I don't know if it's because it's so played out.
It's played out, but it's a good song.
It is, but is it as good as...
Well, my favorite song is... one of my favorite Nirvana songs is Drain You.
Oh, I love that song.
Oh, baby, so...
No, and his voice is just amazing. It's
great.
Velvet.
Yeah.
It's so fucking good. Yeah. But I've definitely listened to Doll Parts more than I've ever listened to Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
Interesting, man. Hot take. Damn. Fucking self-realizations and shit on this fucking episode. Amazing.
I want to be the girl with the most cake. I mean, I think it might be a hot take. Okay, and then the other thing that I wanted to say is I think that Hole is underrated.
Oh, they are underrated for sure.
Because of sexism. Like, just women in rock, I think, tend to be underrated.
I definitely like Sonic Youth more than I like both of these bands.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But Sonic Youth actually has like a deeper catalog, like just so more songs in general. So there's more good songs.
Yeah, because they had it together.
Yeah, right.
In terms of people. Fuck.
So I think Hole is underrated because of sexism. They're underrated because Courtney's just fucking difficult. Like, her difficult ass makes it difficult to root for her, I think, if you just look at the surface, you know?
Also, I feel like, so I think this happens with a lot of people where we lose them young. It's like Nirvana is like sealed in time, right? Like,
yeah.
And so you think of things like that, like Marilyn Monroe, like she's sealed in time. Like, if we would have seen Marilyn, like Elizabeth Taylor, like go into her old age and shit, I don't think people would remember her the same fucking way, you know?
Same. And that's my third point.
So that's the thing
exactly
about Nirvana. Like, you're always going to remember them just as fucking gigantic as the sun.
Right.
Where you saw Hole fizzle out. So you remember that too.
Mm-hmm. And it's like that because they're trapped in the amber rock, like in Jurassic Park.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like we compare any other band that's remotely in that genre to them, and it's like, they're never going to be as great. Yeah, it's not fair.
Well, I don't know. Is it fair or unfair? I don't know. We lost him, and he no longer exists. So is that fair or unfair? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know.
I think I'd rather still have him.
But would you have rather had like, I don't know, 7 other mediocre Nirvana albums?
No,
you know?
No. I mean, but when it comes to that or death,
right? Yeah, sure.
I choose life. I'd rather have.
Well, okay. Let's see if you still feel that way when we hear more about Courtney's life.
All right, let's hear it.
Anyway, so obviously Courtney was in a spiral after Kurt's death. Michael Stipe from REM would call her multiple times a day, every day. This went on for like 2 years after Kurt's death, just to make sure that she was alive and okay.
Right.
Not only was she barely holding on as an addict herself, at the time of Kurt's death, she was actually in rehab. They had both agreed to go to rehab together. That's why Kurt was in his own personal rehab and she was in another one.
Right.
So she's not only dealing with her own addiction, but the death of her husband. And she had, don't forget, an 18-month-old daughter to take care of.
Seriously.
And she had the weight and the hate and the expectations of Kurt's fans. So suffice it to say that she was a mess.
Yeah, that's the worst, is that I think people blame her.
Yeah.
And no, like, especially
It's not
now
fair.
looking back and everything, he lived the most unhealthy. He was gonna die, whether
Yeah.
by his own hand or drugs or whatever. Like, he
Yeah.
wasn't gonna live much longer going the way that he was going.
Yeah, it's just
It had
it's not
nothing to
fair.
do with Courtney.
Mm-mm. And I actually think that had they not both been addicts, they were perfect for each other.
Oh, yeah,
they had
for sure.
They had gone through such similar childhoods
Yeah.
and had similar interests as
Yeah.
far as intellectually and even just like the kind of music that they listened to. I think that they would have been great, but it's like this added layer of the codependency and
Yeah.
it just like it was a recipe for disaster. So Courtney was, I mean, had gone through the worst thing that anyone
Yeah.
has ever gone through, basically. Not to mention that Hole's bassist, Kristen Pfaff, died of an overdose just 2 months after Kurt.
Oh my God.
Courtney tells the story of being on the phone with one of my favorite music video directors, Sophie Muller, talking about an upcoming shoot, and Eric yelling from the other room that Kristen was dead. And Courtney's on the phone with Sophie.
Oh my God.
Courtney's on the phone with Sophie, and she tells Sophie, quote, "I have to go. My bass player's fucking dead. Will this ever end?" And hangs up.
Oh my God.
The 94-95 Hole shows are infamous for being amazing and iconic because Courtney was openly working through her trauma on stage.
Yeah, she's so honest.
She would cry and scream and just yell, "Kurt, Kurt," or just like speak to Kurt, his ghost, his spirit, or whatever.
Wow.
The footage from these shows are fucking wild. Courtney told Barbara Walters, quote, "I wouldn't be alive if I didn't go on tour." I think that was like
Her therapy.
her therapy, yeah. She says that looking back, she didn't know that grief counseling was a thing.
Right.
And she said that that's 1000% what she needed.
Right.
But,
That's
like,
I think like with Kurt too. Like, imagine if like in this era, like if he were a child, like how different his life might have turned out.
Oh, for sure. So she got arrested a couple times for fighting with members of the audience. She got arrested like for fighting with a flight attendant in an airplane.
Wow.
And she pled guilty on assault charges after she threw a lit cigarette at Kathleen Hanna from Bikini Kill and later La Tigre before punching her in the face.
Oh my God. Shout out to La Tigre.
For real,
That's
that is
my
like
high school right there.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. I think I lost my virginity to La Tigre.
No, I know what you lost your virginity to.
Shut up, man.
We'll play it one day. It'll be like a Easter egg at the end of an episode.
Oh my God.
I didn't know that Kathleen was married to Ad Rock.
Oh, me either. That's cool. Fuck. For both of them, that's cool.
So cool. And I learned this 2 days ago, and I keep thinking about that is a fantastic celebrity couple. They are quickly rising the ranks as one of my favorite celebrity couples. They've been together for like 25 years now.
That's awesome.
Anyway, Courtney says that she doesn't have very many memories from 94 to 95
Ooh.
because she was high on heroin and Rohypnol at the time. This is also around the time that she threw shit at Madonna at the VMAs.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Always used to come up on MTV's like
Always.
clip shows. Yeah.
Yeah. Like top 10
doesn't even
MTV
have
moments.
clip shows anymore, guys.
They're fucking up.
I know. What the fuck?
Oh, God. This is it's maybe my favorite MTV moment.
Yeah,
No.
it's like your two worlds collapsing or crashing right there.
And it's definitely my favorite Madonna moment. Kurt Loder was low-key scared, and I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah. If someone was like, could you describe me in like a moment in pop history? I'd be like, yes, it's this moment right here. Kurt Loder, MTV, Madonna. Of that era of Madonna too,
That
which
era
is
of
so
Madonna.
underrated, and I think I could hear your college thesis on that era of Madonna. And then Courtney Love,
Just being a fucking mess.
yes,
Like,
it's everything you love right there.
Kurt's just like fucking scared. Madonna looks like she wants to like kill Courtney. Which Courtney would kill your ass in like 5 seconds.
Relax.
Yeah, and then Courtney tells her that Kurt and her went to, not Kurt Loder, Kurt Cobain, went to see Truth or Dare. Like that was like one of their dates.
Uh-huh.
And Kurt was like, looked up at the screen and pointed. I imagine that meme that's popular right now of Leo pointing at the screen.
Oh, I love that one.
And so anyway, he pointed at the screen and was like, "That's you."
How funny.
Anyway, it ends with Courtney taking a serious fall. It's hilarious. After the Live Through This tour ended, Courtney wanted to get back into acting and landed the role of Althea in Milos Forman's The People vs. Larry Flynt, which we talked about a few weeks ago. Milos said that when she auditioned, she was obviously high as fuck, but that she blew him away. So he told her that she could have the part on the condition that she get clean, and he personally had to guarantee a $1 million insurance policy for her to work on the film. And Columbia Pictures made her take constant drug tests during filming. And the gamble paid off, as Courtney's performance was critically acclaimed and earned her a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress. And that's where she met my bae, Mr. Edward Norton.
Hell yeah.
With whom she had a 4-year relationship. She calls the relationship, quote, the greatest, most stabilizing relationship of my life. He has such a cool dating history, man.
Yeah.
On the heels of her newfound status as a buzzy Hollywood actress, Courtney and Hole released their much-anticipated sophomore album, Celebrity Skin, in 1998, which, once again, was a critical and commercial success.
That one's awesome.
This is when I started listening to Hole, because, like,
yeah,
I think when we were young, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When we were younger, it was all like Nirvana.
Yeah.
And obviously, the song "Celebrity Skin" is a bop. Which, fun fact, the guitar riff was written by Billy Corgan, who co-wrote on a lot of the songs on that album with Courtney and Eric. Courtney said that when she first heard the da-na, 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 she was like, "That's the fucking corniest thing you've ever wrote in your life." After a 6-month engagement, Courtney and Edward broke up at the end of 1999.
Aww. My brother says he was cool. He was like, that's a cool white guy.
Edward Norton?
Mm-hmm. He was like, come on, Steph. He got Selma at her peak.
Yeah,
how cool did he have to be to get that? I was laughing.
Yeah. And that's another white guy who just minds his own business.
Yeah, for sure.
And is just fucking good at his job.
Yep.
Yeah, love him. So she says of the breakup that she didn't want people to look at her and say, oh, Mrs. Norton, she used to be Courtney Love. Which I feel I understand her, because she also has this chip on her shoulder about being Mrs. Kurt Cobain forever.
Right. Because she is such an individual, and she's always shadowed by the men she's with.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, I guess she was like scared of losing herself.
Right.
And she says that she was, and she hates the fact that she was almost destined to be, after Kurt's death, she's like destined to be this professional widow, is the word that she used. So, I don't know. They should have stayed together. I don't know. Oh, who knows? Also, around this time, it seems that, around the time of her breakup with Edward, it seems like Courtney developed a coke habit for the first time. Yeah.
Or in the 90s, yeah?
Like 99, almost 2000.
All right, yeah. Well, pretty much since then.
Her solo album, America's Sweetheart, flopped. And producer Linda Perry said it was because Courtney was coked out for 6 months in a French chateau the whole time she was working on it.
Ooh, Linda Perry, another very interesting person to make an appearance.
Yeah, super interesting.
Yeah. I know this might be corny, but I always think of her with like the drama with Pink and Christina Aguilera. Oh yeah, I know. And also, she had recent drama too in her marriage, right? I don't think I know it, but
yeah, she seems like a cool person.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, so not only did Courtney relapse and the album flopped, but she was also involved in a ton of lawsuits with the surviving members of Nirvana, and her own record label was also suing her, and that was preventing her from releasing new Hole music.
Right.
She still took on a handful of acting roles, but Courtney had a lot of bad looks related to her wild behavior and drug use, so the roles dried up. She was arrested for breaking into her ex-boyfriend/manager's house. Then she OD'd in front of Francis, which led to those in her circle staging a psychiatric intervention, and Francis was removed from her custody by CPS. But our old friend, her stepdad, Frank, stepped in and took Francis until Courtney could get her shit together, which honestly took a while. She had a suicide attempt on her 40th birthday in 2004 and was put on a 5150 at Bellevue.
Wow.
It's like, since she started doing coke is like where you see it, she's
really pop off.
Yeah, she's like spiraling. It's getting really bad. She was infamously photographed letting a stranger suck on her titty at Wendy's.
Oh, I forgot about that. Wow.
She pioneered Ma'am, this is a Wendy's, so I have to stand. She flashed David Letterman and finally hit rock bottom during an appearance at the roast of Pamela Anderson when she was on coke, crack, and opioids for the world to see.
Wow.
So she had to go to rehab and has essentially been sober since 2007. She still acts occasionally and puts out music occasionally, but neither to the heights of her potential. She recently admitted that she had a very brief opioid relapse in 2018, but very quickly sought out help and went to rehab, which I think is a good sign.
Yeah.
I saw her perform last year and she looked sober to me, but I mean, like, what do I know?
Yeah.
She's been a major philanthropist and advocate for the LGBT community since the early 90s. With Kurt, they were both like strong advocates for the LGBT community.
Yeah, they were.
And she also advocates for record companies to reinvest in the Black community since, quote, white people have been stealing from them for years. Again, I stand. She's been a Buddhist for forever, and I watched a documentary where she chants for, quote, Lindsay Lohan, Kate Moss, and horses.
Whoa. Okay. Wow.
No choice but to stand. She's also great on Instagram, which I didn't follow her until this week.
I didn't even know she had an Instagram.
She's fucking fantastic on Instagram, and it's great because she's real thirsty for Brad Pitt, and she has been since the early 90s. And a lot of these MTV interviews, I see she's so thirsty for him.
Oh my God, I'm going to follow her right now.
Yeah, so great on Instagram. And she all around seems to be doing okay for now. And her relationship with Francis seems fine for now, too.
Good.
So I wish them both the best. And that's the story of Courtney Love and
Kurt Cobain.
Hey.
Hey, you guys got 2 for 1. Hey, baby.
I think people are really going to wrap their minds around our age.
Yeah, seriously, right? That was a dead giveaway. I did say it because I said Adele's birthday, but like as if the episode wouldn't have also.
But I mean the vibes, I think, of like not only are the age of our number, but like the culture around like the
when
how
we grew up and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Aww. Well, guys, I'm drunk. Thank you for listening to The Drama Club. Hit us up on Instagram and Twitter at Drama Club Pod and on the website dramaclubpod.com.
On the hotline, 505-539-0556 at our P.O. Box number 27433 LACA 90027. Leave us a tip on our website on the tip jar. And leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. And we'll catch you on Thursday with a brand new Afternoon Delight episode.
Bye.
Bye.
However, whatever with your however.